Mr. Speaker, I rise today in memory and in celebration of my friend and mentor, Senator Daniel Akaka, who took his final breaths exactly 1 week ago today. I was in Hawaii and woke up very early to a text message from one of his children who let me know that he had passed away around 5 o'clock that last morning. We all took that day to remember him and his life and to think back on the memories that we have of how he dedicated his life to serving the people of Hawaii and our country. From his service in the U.S. Army back during World War II, to his years that he spent taking care of our keiki as a public school teacher and a principal, his work in the state, and then serving more than 36 years in the United States Congress. He was the first member of Congress to serve of Native Hawaiian ancestry and made history in many different ways. He is known throughout Hawaii for so many reasons, but when you say the word Akaka, it is synonymous with aloha, because that's what he represented throughout his life. And the warmth and the fondness, the love and the kindness that he shared with everyone made it so that he was not known so much as Senator Akaka, so much as Uncle Danny. He did all of this with his wife, Millie, by his side, mother of 5 children, Auntie Millie herself, a force of nature. She was ever present here in Washington with Senator Akaka and his travels and expressed aloha in her own way. In everything he did, Senator Akaka put service before self. He truly walked the talk. He carried the spirit of aloha with him in his heart and at the forefront of his actions. Now, in the last week, the people of Hawaii, many people across the country, many of our colleagues here in Washington have been sharing their own personal stories about how Senator Akaka touched and inspired their lives, talking about the legacy that he left behind and the example that he set with his life. And the central theme in each of these stories that I've heard all comes back to aloha. Aloha, which means kindness, respect, and love for others, regardless of any differences that we may have, whether they be by race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, or anything else. To this day here in the Capitol, sometimes I'll bump into some of his former colleagues in the U.S. Senate, even here, people he served with in the U.S. House. And as soon as you mention his name, you can kind of see their shoulders fall, their stress fall away, and they get a smile on their face as they think about the time that they had serving with him. They'll have little stories about a codel that they went on with him or a committee that they served on with him, and they always talk about how kind he was. No matter who you were, no matter what was going on around you, he always took that moment to share the warmth of his own heart with yours. This even came from those who disagreed with him. This even came from those who fought him hardest on the signature bill that he tried to pass, the Akaka bill. Even if they opposed his policies, none of them had anything ill to say of him. This speaks to the impact that he left on the United States Capitol, on Washington, on this country, and on Hawaii. And it speaks to the legacy that he leaves behind that will continue to inspire leaders of our country and leaders in our community, people everywhere, to serve in their own lives in that same spirit of aloha and respect for everyone. After I returned from my first deployment to Iraq with the Hawaii Army National Guard, I had the privilege of being able to work in Senator Akaka's office as a legislative aide. He was chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee at the time, and coming back, this was a great opportunity I felt to be able to help him in that service, to help make reforms and changes to our VA and our country's policies and how our veterans are cared for. In particular, the post 9/11 veterans, in particular, the large number of National Guard and reservists who are being activated to serve in the Middle East and who were not being treated with the kind of respect and honor and dignity that they had earned through their service. This included everything from the GI Bill to VA services and qualifications that they earned. I was able to experience firsthand on a daily basis the impact that he made. His example of aloha, taking the time as he was rushing to a committee or rushing to vote to stop and say hello to the janitor who was mopping the floor, to stop and say aloha to visitors who were coming from Hawaii or from other states, to stop and talk to the staff and ask how they were doing, how was their family, how were things going. He invested in building lifelong relationships. He spent that quality, whether it was short or long, because he understood how important every individual is and how he wanted to take advantage of that moment to share his aloha, recognizing that only by working together, only through aloha and bringing people together can we make real positive change. For those of us who had the opportunity to work with Senator Akaka, either in his office in Washington, in Hawaii, on one of his campaigns, or in some capacity, we've bonded over the years, and every year we got together with Senator Akaka, his wife, and his family to celebrate his birthday in September of every year. And during this last year, this past September, I was able to spend some time with him and chatted a bit, and as he always does, he asked how are things going in Washington, and he expressed his sadness about how divisive things have become, how the kind of collegiality and respect that existed when he was serving in the U.S. Senate for so many years, that allowed people to disagree without being disagreeable, that allowed people to debate strongly their disagreements on issues, but come together at the end of the day to find a solution, that has largely been lost. And as a result, we are seeing the gridlock and the divisiveness and the lack of results, the lack of delivery to our constituents, in large part because of no aloha. This respect has largely been lost. He has always spoken about how aloha is the solution. So as we remember Senator Akaka's legacy of service and aloha, the best way that we can honor his life is by doing our best to live aloha in his example, serving others, doing our best to protect our planet, finding common where we can, seeing that even though we may disagree on certain issues, there will be others that we agree on, fighting for justice, fighting for equality, and fighting for peace. He was a courageous leader. I am grateful to have the opportunity to serve my constituents in Hawaii in the same congressional seat that he once held, and will forever be inspired by his friendship and the life that he lived. Mahalo nui loa to his wife, Auntie Millie, and to his entire family for sharing him with us. And thank you to Uncle Danny for sharing your aloha with the world. You'll be missed. Ahui ho.